"I know you don't want me to go," her brother said, as Annie pulled up to the curb in the departure queue at Logan Airport. "But thanks for staying out of it." She touched his arm, wishing she could stop him, knowing she couldn't. "Have a good time," she replied, with a forced smile. He gave her a small wink, grabbed his suitcase and backpack, and got out of the Jeep. Then he disappeared into the terminal as her heart crumbled a little. Kevin, of course, was right. She'd wanted to convince him to stay on Martha's Vineyard where he now belonged. But Taylor Winstead, the auburn-haired woman who had turned his head a year ago, now lived in Hawaii, having fled her unfortunate past. Annie never dreamed that he would join Taylor. She'd thought that the couple had uncoupled before the woman left. "She needs me," he'd said when he announced that she'd enlisted his help with renovations to her house on Maui. Annie had been stunned. She'd been happy when Taylor had packed her bags and gone. Relieved, in fact, as Annie had never quite warmed up to her. "That'll teach you," Murphy said from her place up in the clouds. Murphy was Annie's old college pal, who had died but remained with Annie in spirit. On occasion, she still offered sage advice and mischievous quips. Annie didn't respond, but fixed her eyes on the road. The trip from Boston back to the ferry at Woods Hole took forever. Every mile of highway thick with traffic, every vehicle intent on getting in her way. To top it off, it was August hot and humid. Or maybe Annie was merely stressed about Kevin having left. By the time she reached the boat, she was grateful it was loading. Once on board, she parked where she was directed, then climbed 2 flights of iron stairs to the upper passenger deck. Squeezing between a texting teen and a large, sun-hatted man, Annie stood at the railing, closed her eyes, and let the sun warm her face and soothe her soul. After all, she was going home. And Kevin would be back. He would. He would. He would. If she turned that into a mantra, maybe it would come true. A few minutes later, the engines rumbled to life, and the island home pulled away from the pier, out to the harbor, into Vineyard Sound. As they glided past the Emerald Elizabeth Islands, Annie's gaze drifted from the clear blue sky to the sparkling summer sea. The soft motion enveloped her, rocking away the heat and the onslaught of noise that had besieged her in the city. Since she'd moved to the Vineyard 2 years earlier, the sight of the Boston skyline alone gave her agita. She could hardly wait to be back on the island, where life was magical and beautiful and blanketed with peace, and where she could think straight again.